Welcome into Falcons Today by Chat Sports. We're going to run through the latest rumors on your favorite team, including L'Jarius Sneed potentially coming to Atlanta, according to one NFL source, which we'll talk about in just a moment. And then, could Jeff Okudah be the guy not returning that started last season for Atlanta? But let's talk about this report that came out from Sportskeeda's Tony Pauline, who talked about L'Jarius Sneed's future. And he said, if the Chiefs can't sign Sneed in the offseason, where could he land? Keep an eye on the Atlanta Falcons, Dallas Cowboys, and Las Vegas Raiders. So I have three quick reactions to this. Number one, who the heck is Tony Pauline? Number two, what is Sportskeeda? I see their stuff every once in a while, but I have no idea if Tony Pauline from Sportskeeda is actually someone that gets legit scoops on the NFL, or if he's just tossing out his personal opinion on where L'Jarius Sneed could make some sense if it's not Kansas City. And then number three, and most importantly, there's no way Kansas City lets L'Jarius Sneed walk in free agency. I'm 99% certain. But if you do think that 1% chance happens, maybe it's because of a trickle-down effect that starts with this. Chris Jones gets a 3-year, $85 million contract. That's what Spotrac is projecting that Chris Jones could get on the open market. So let's say Kansas City decides to make a big investment into Chris Jones, who wants to stay in Kansas City. Well, that could eat up some of their cap space. And then I was also thinking, look at the top 10 highest paid quarterbacks based on average annual salary. Patrick Mahomes has no business being number 8. In all reality, he should be number 1 constantly. But we know that's not how contracts work. But he definitely shouldn't be number 8. So what if Kansas City pays Chris Jones a ton of money and Patrick Mahomes goes, I think we should probably redo this contract a little bit, and they make Patrick Mahomes a $50 million quarterback? Well, that could take away from some of the budget that was allocated to spending on guys like L'Jarius Sneed. Now, the Chiefs could very well put the franchise tag on Sneed, but that's going to run them a bill of about $18.5 million. And that's not cheap by any stretch, and it's a fully guaranteed kind of situation. So it's not like you can take that $18 million and spread it out over multiple years to lower the cap hit. No, that's a big pill to swallow. So if you put all of your eggs in the Chris Jones and extending or restructuring or redoing Patrick Mahomes' contract basket, maybe there's no money left over from Sneed. But I'm inclined to believe that Kansas City will find a way to get it done. Their former 4th-round pick out of Louisiana Tech has been one of the best corners in football the last 2 years. He has 7 interceptions since 2021 when he became a full-time starter for every single game he played. And in 2023, PFF ranked him 30th out of 127 qualifying corners. L'Jarius Sneed, without a doubt, is one of the best corners in football right now. And I just do not see a way that Kansas City goes, yeah, we know that Sneed plays one of the 3 to 4 most valuable positions in football. He's entering his prime, but let's let him walk. That just seems like it's never going to happen. Maybe, and only maybe, Kansas City goes, you know what? We learned that even without Tyreek Hill, we can still win games. So if another team wants to pay him a ton of money, we have been experts at drafting and developing corners. Let someone else pay him, and we'll draft a new corner, and he'll be just as good as L'Jarius Sneed. I don't think that's likely to happen, though. But if you are in the camp of whatever it takes, get Sneed to Atlanta, this is a rough idea as to what it could cost. Again, Spotrac comes out, these projections, they're based on age, stats, and similar contracts given out to other players. And they think Sneed's going to get a 4-year, $65 million contract. That's an average of 16.3. So remember, the franchise tag is north of 16.3. And so if Kansas City thinks he is a $16 million corner and they don't have $16 million to spend on him, they definitely don't have $18 million to spend on a franchise tag. But in my heart of hearts, I feel like they're going to find a way to make sure Sneed, Chris Jones are still in Kansas City next year. But I do want to ask you guys this question as we get closer and closer to free agency. If you had to pick one position for Atlanta to spend the most money on, which position would it be? Sign an expensive wide receiver, an expensive edge rusher, or an expensive cornerback. I'm definitely favoring these two a little bit more because you do have A.J. Terrell, so it's not as big of a need as wide receiver and edge rusher. But let me know what your thoughts are, which one you'd rather have the most money spent on in free agency. Now, next up on the show, we're going to talk about Jeff Okudah potentially returning, what we are hearing from boots on the ground, the latest rumors surrounding Okudah coming back to ATL. But first, I want to tell you guys about the tremendous deal that's going on right now over at Fanatics. If you want to up your Falcons wardrobe, make sure you get this Falcons t-shirt and hat combination because you're getting a twofer. And if that's not good enough for you, it is 30% off. It is on sale. Chatsports.com/ATL combo. I know you guys probably didn't write that down. I don't think you walk around with a pen and paper in your hand. So put that link in the comments and description of today's video. Make sure you get started today to get this awesome Atlanta Falcons t-shirt and hat combination. So now the latest rumors on the former top 5 pick by the Lions out of Ohio State that unfortunately really couldn't stay healthy in the Motor City, which led to him getting traded last year to Atlanta for a 5th-round pick. And then his lone season with the Falcons was filled with some ups, but a lot of downs, especially towards the end of the season. Now, The Athletic's Josh Kendall released an article with what he's hearing on some of the Falcons free agents. And here's what he had to say. The number 3 pick in the 2020 draft might get the biggest deal out of the Falcons free agents this year simply because of potential and youth. But it's unlikely to come from the Falcons. Okudah, who came to Atlanta in an offseason trade with Detroit last year, was benched late in the season in favor of rookie cornerback Clark Phillips. Morris might be tempted by Okudah's talent, but with secondary coach Jerry Gray staying in Atlanta, Okudah probably won't be back. And I agree with Josh. I think Okudah is likely gone. I don't think it was some disaster of a trade. I don't think he was even all that bad of a starter. But I don't think that anyone came away from the 2023 season going, now that's a guy we got to bring back. And especially when you take into account that his old coach is no longer there, the guy who helped trade for him that maybe would have some attachment to want to run it back for another season. I'm talking about Arthur Smith here. But his position coach, which during the game, those are the guys sometimes operating and managing who's getting snaps and who's on the bench. I mean, when you look at Jeff Okudah's snaps, look at the severe downtick the last quarter of the season, right? Played six snaps in Week 18. Didn't play at all in Week 17 against the Bears. 4 snaps against the Colts. 16 snaps against the Panthers. Inactive due to, I think it was an ankle injury, if I remember correctly, back in Week 14 against the Bucs. And that was after playing 94, 89, 100% of snaps from Weeks 10 to 13. So you can see the benching at the end of the season. And I don't think Atlanta is going to be a team with the new regime to go pay Okudah maybe what other teams might offer him because he does have that potential of being a great corner given where he was taken in the draft. When you look at Atlanta's cornerback depth chart, though, Flowers is also a free agent, but they do have the now second-year player Clark Phillips out of Utah, who they may be thinking is ready for a bigger role and could at least compete for the starting job. So they may go with the approach of let's draft a corner or sign a really, really cheap corner and let that guy and Clark Phillips battle it out for the CB2 job instead of overpaying Jeff Okudah. Now, my big question when it comes to L'Jarius Sneed and Jeff Okudah a little bit, but really not so much Okudah, more related to Sneed, let's see if they extend A.J. Terrell, right? Kind of going back to how the video started. If you want to see Atlanta give big bucks out to L'Jarius Sneed, I don't think you're going to see A.J. Terrell get a big contract extension. When you look at what I think is a projected extension, this is what I came up with, I think Terrell could get a 4-year, $64 million contract. That's an average of $16 million a season, so not far off from what L'Jarius Sneed could be getting in free agency, and I don't think these two corners are in vastly different tiers of cornerback, so this is a rough idea as to what it might cost to extend Terrell. And if you do ink A.J. Terrell to this contract extension, I really don't think they're going to be also paying a lot of money to L'Jarius Sneed. So let me know, are you invested in A.J. Terrell long-term? He got off to a really good start, first 2 seasons in Atlanta. Last 2 years, it just wasn't as good as the first 2 years. That's really the simplest way to put it. Yes or no down below in the comment section. Now, to kind of wrap up the video, I just want to put a bow on attacking cornerback in free agency by looking at some other free agent corners. Because, like I said earlier, I really do believe Sneed will go back to Kansas City. Jalen Johnson is very, very likely to stay in Chicago. Kendall Fuller, Chidobe Awuzie, Stephon Gilmore, Steven Nelson, Kenny Moore, Adoree Jackson. Those are some players to watch for that may very well test the open market. And if I think about what Atlanta brought into their coaching staff, DC Jimmy Lake, what's his background? DBs. So you got to envision that in these free agency and draft meetings, he is in Raheem Morris' ear saying, give me some good DBs to work with. So they don't find it in free agency. At 8th overall pick, it's a good spot to get a really good corner like Terrion Arnold out of Alabama. I know a consensus of the viewers watching want to get edge rusher, and believe me, I'm not opposed to getting an edge rusher, but I feel like with a top 10 pick, you should really draft just the best player, right? And it may not be your most glaring need at the moment, but in a few seasons, you'll be so happy if you've got 2 shutdown corners instead of just forcing a pick at edge rusher. It's because you needed an edge rusher, and he's the next Vic Beasley. So I am very open to going to Terrion Arnold at number 8. I've seen a lot of the big boards from all the NFL draft experts and gurus have Arnold ahead of almost every single edge rusher. So just keep an open mind to drafting a corner at number 8 if Atlanta figures out its quarterback situation in free agency, maybe signs a wide receiver to kind of check that box, and then if it comes down to where do they want to go on defense, at number 8 may be the best player over the biggest need on the team. That's going to do it for us on today's show. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to come hang out with us here. If you're still watching, you know I love to do this every so often. Type ATL in the comment section.